Sam Bankman-Fried, often called SBF, emerged seemingly out of nowhere to become the hottest name in cryptocurrency by 2022. At just 30 years old, he was worth an astonishing $24 billion. But unlike the typical image of wealth and power, the slick suits, expensive watches, and corporate boardrooms, SBF embodied the ethos of a completely new kind of billionaire. Casual, t-shirt wearing, driving a beat-up Toyota Corolla. He was a self-proclaimed effective altruist who vowed to give away 99% of his fortune to humanity's greatest causes. The world was mesmerized. Here was a billionaire who actually seemed to care about more than just money. He spoke passionately about preventing future pandemics, reducing animal suffering, and ensuring humanity's survival against existential risks. His parents were Stanford law professors, and his upbringing was steeped in academic rigor and moral philosophy. People saw him as a visionary mathematician, someone who had successfully married high finance with genuine philanthropy. His company, FTX, launched in 2019 amid the cryptocurrency boom and quickly grew into the world's third-largest cryptocurrency exchange. Within just 3 years, it processed billions of dollars in trades daily. Millions of regular people, teachers, nurses, retirees, young professionals, entrusted their life savings to FTX.
Celebrity endorsements poured in. Tom Brady became a spokesperson. Steph Curry appeared in commercials. The Miami Heat's stadium was renamed FTX Arena for $135 million. SBF was invited to congressional hearings as an expert witness. He donated $40 million to political campaigns, making him the second largest individual political donor in America, behind only George Soros. But beneath this shining image lay a darker reality few could see or dared to believe. Unbeknownst to customers, regulators, and even most employees, SBF's hedge fund, Alameda Research, a separate trading firm closely linked to FTX, exercised secret and unlimited control over FTX's customer deposits. Instead of safeguarding these funds in segregated accounts, as required by law, Alameda treated them as its own private piggy bank, funneling billions into risky investments, personal luxuries, and political campaigns. This was not growth fueled by innovation, market expertise, or customer trust. It was growth built on deception, debt, and systematic theft. The stage was set for a breathtaking fall from grace, a perfect storm of ambition, greed, and reckless arrogance.
In 2021, Sam Bankman-Fried made a calculated decision to shift his base of operations from Silicon Valley to the Bahamas. Drawn by the island nation's favorable cryptocurrency regulations and significant tax advantages, the move also served another purpose. It allowed him to build an empire away from the prying eyes of American regulators and journalists. Here in this tropical paradise, the gulf between his carefully crafted public persona and his private life became starkly, almost comically apparent. While he continued to preach simplicity and modesty in interviews and conferences, his actual residence told a very different story. A lavish 12,000 square foot yellow penthouse worth $35 million. Perched atop one of the most exclusive developments in Nassau, complete with infinity rooftop pools, private spas, sprawling marble terraces, multiple guest suites, and even a concert-quality grand piano. It was nothing short of a billionaire's palace. Yet this luxury wasn't confined to one man. 10 FTX executives lived together in what insiders sarcastically called the crypto frat house, a collection of connected penthouses where they threw legendary parties that would make Silicon Valley tech bros blush. These gatherings, fueled by unlimited company money, featured expensive liquor, private chefs, and a lifestyle of complete hedonistic excess. Meanwhile, SBF's own parents, both Stanford law professors, somehow found themselves controlling 19 different properties, valued collectively at over $300 million, all purchased with FTX company funds.
The operation of this empire depended heavily on Caroline Ellison, SBF's former Stanford classmate and ex-girlfriend, who ran Alameda Research with what appeared to be ruthless efficiency. Ellison, a math whiz with a Harvard economics degree, seemed like the perfect lieutenant for SBF's grand vision. But following SBF's explicit instructions, she helped engineer what would become one of the most audacious financial frauds in modern history. Together, they devised a secret allow negative backdoor hidden deep within Alameda's trading systems. Essentially, it created a limitless unsecured credit line, enabling Alameda to borrow up to $65 billion using FTX customer deposits as collateral, all without oversight, approval processes, or regulatory compliance checks. This wasn't a bug in the system. It was a feature carefully programmed to enable theft. Multiple falsified financial reports, balance sheets, and audit documents were systematically created, masking an ever-widening $14 billion black hole. These stolen billions were diverted into high-risk venture capital investments, luxury real estate purchases, enormous political donations, and efforts to prop up failing cryptocurrency projects heavily backed by Alameda. The empire gleamed brilliantly in the Caribbean sun, but like the mythological Icarus, flying too close to the sun on wax wings, it was doomed to crash, spectacularly, back to Earth. As cryptocurrencies entered a brutal bear market during the harsh winter of 2022, the structural cracks in Alameda's and FTX's seemingly invincible financial juggernaut became impossible to hide. Bitcoin, Ethereum, and virtually every other major cryptocurrency lost 60 to 80% of their value, and Alameda's massively over-leveraged trading positions began to collapse catastrophically under their own weight. Faced with margin calls and mounting losses that threatened to expose their fraud, Alameda dramatically ramped up unauthorized withdrawals from FTX's customer funds. What had been billions stolen over years now became billions stolen over months, then weeks, then days. The pace of theft accelerated exponentially as their desperation grew. Despite clear internal signs of acute financial distress, SBF maintained his public facade with remarkable composure. His Twitter account became a stream of confident reassurances. Tweets emblazoned with false bravado drove the narrative. FTX is fine. Assets are fine. When customers expressed concern, he would personally respond with seemingly heartfelt messages. But behind the closed doors of the Bahamas penthouse, employees were whispering about insolvency, missed payments, and a growing sense of impending chaos. Some began quietly updating their resumes and reaching out to headhunters. This carefully maintained veil of lies finally began to unravel on November 2nd, 2022, when the financial news website CoinDesk published their explosive investigative report. Their analysis revealed that Alameda's primary assets were largely composed of FTT tokens, digital tokens issued by FTX itself. This meant that both companies' supposed wealth was built on circular, self-referential valuations that could evaporate overnight. It was financial smoke and mirrors of the highest order. The two companies weren't just connected, they were dangerously, illegally intertwined, with financiers essentially hiding massive debt behind worthless digital tokens they had created themselves. Panic immediately gripped the cryptocurrency market. Sophisticated investors and everyday customers alike suddenly realized that the exchange they had trusted with their money was nothing more than an elaborate house of cards. The illusion of stability shattered completely, setting off warning sirens across the entire crypto ecosystem. The countdown to complete disaster had begun.
November 6th, 2022 dawned like any other day in the Bahamas, but it would mark the beginning of the end for SBF's empire.
Changpeng Zhao, the CEO of Binance, the world's largest cryptocurrency exchange and once a close ally of SBF, made an announcement that would trigger the most devastating bank run in cryptocurrency history. In a carefully worded tweet, Zhao announced that Binance would be liquidating its entire holdings of FTT tokens, approximately $500 million worth, due to recent revelations that have come to light. The crypto world understood immediately. If Binance, the industry's most powerful player, was dumping FTT, then something was seriously wrong at FTX. The market reaction was swift and merciless. Within hours, the price of FTT tokens began plummeting. But more importantly, customers started panic withdrawing their funds from FTX at an unprecedented rate. What began as a trickle quickly became a torrent, then a tsunami. Within the first 24 hours, over $2 billion had been withdrawn. By the second day, the number reached $4 billion. By the third day, it exceeded $6 billion. FTX's reserves, which should have been safely stored and readily available, simply weren't there. The company was trying to pay back customer withdrawals with money that had been secretly stolen and lost by Alameda Research.
Inside the Bahamas penthouse, panic set in. SBF, who had always maintained supreme confidence in his ability to talk his way out of any problem, began making increasingly desperate phone calls. He reached out to Zhao directly, begging Binance to acquire FTX as an emergency lifeline. The crypto world held its breath as Binance announced they would conduct emergency due diligence on FTX's finances. For a few hours, it seemed like SBF might actually pull off another miraculous escape. Then came the devastating blow. After just one day of examining FTX's books, Binance issued a brief clinical statement. They were walking away from the deal. The company's financial records were too compromised, the hole too large, the situation too dire for even Binance to fix. November 11, 2022 became a date that would live in cryptocurrency infamy. FTX Trading Limited filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in Delaware federal court. SBF resigned as CEO in disgrace. The official filing revealed the scope of the catastrophe, an $8 billion hole in customer balances, representing the life savings of millions of people around the world. But the nightmare wasn't over. The following day, November 12, an alleged hack drained an additional $473 million from FTX's remaining wallets. Many cybersecurity experts immediately suspected this wasn't an external hack at all, but rather a final desperate attempt by insiders to steal whatever assets remained, a last act of looting a sinking ship. Behind the scenes, the criminal investigation was already beginning. Federal prosecutors were building cases and key FTX executives were being approached by the FBI. One by one, SBF's closest allies began flipping, agreeing to cooperate with prosecutors in exchange for reduced sentences. Carolyn Ellison, Gary Wang, and Nishad Singh, the inner circle that had helped orchestrate the massive fraud, were now ready to testify.
December 12, 2022 marked the beginning of SBF's final downfall. FBI agents arrested him at his parents' $121 million Bahamas compound just as he was preparing to testify before Congress via video link. The irony was palpable. The man who had donated millions to politicians was being arrested while preparing to speak to the very lawmakers he had tried to influence. After a brief extradition fight, SBF was transported back to New York to face justice in the same courthouse where other financial criminals, like Bernie Madoff, had been tried and convicted. The trial began in October 2023, and it immediately captivated the world. This wasn't just about cryptocurrency or financial fraud. It was about the spectacular fall of someone who had been hailed as a generational talent, a moral leader, and possibly the future of finance itself. Caroline Ellison's testimony proved to be the prosecution's most devastating weapon. Over 3 grueling days on the witness stand, she methodically detailed how SBF had personally directed the theft of billions of dollars in customer funds. She described secret late-night meetings where they had discussed how to cover up the growing holes in FTX's balance sheet. She revealed text messages and signal conversations where SBF had explicitly ordered her to use customer money for Alameda's risky trades. Perhaps most damaging of all, she testified about the personal relationship that had clouded their professional judgment. As his ex-girlfriend, she had been willing to follow his orders, even when she knew they were illegal. SBF's defense strategy proved to be a catastrophic miscalculation. Rather than showing remorse or accepting responsibility, he chose to testify in his own defense and essentially threw everyone else under the bus. He blamed Caroline Ellison for poor risk management. He blamed his other co-founders for not implementing proper controls. He claimed he had been too busy with big-picture strategy to pay attention to the day-to-day operations that were systematically stealing customer funds. The jury saw right through these desperate lies. After just 4 hours of deliberation, they returned guilty verdicts on all 7 counts of fraud and conspiracy. Federal prosecutors called it one of the largest financial frauds in American history, comparable to the schemes run by Bernie Madoff and Enron executives. On March 28, 2024, Judge Lewis Kaplan delivered SBF's sentence in a packed Manhattan courtroom: 25 years in federal prison, an $11 billion forfeiture order, and a scathing judicial rebuke. He knew it was wrong, he knew it was criminal, he regrets that he made a very bad bet about the likelihood of getting caught. Caroline Ellison, who had cooperated extensively with prosecutors, received a reduced sentence of 2 years in prison. But for the millions of FTX customers around the world, no sentence could restore what they had lost: retirement savings, college funds, money saved for homes and medical bills.
The cryptocurrency industry as a whole suffered massive collateral damage. Market values plummeted. Regulatory agencies around the globe announced sweeping new oversight measures. The dream of decentralized, trustless finance had been severely damaged by the actions of one man who had claimed to represent its highest ideals. The story of Sam Bankman-Fried serves as a profound cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power, the corruption that accompanies massive wealth, and the devastating consequences when greed masquerades as altruism. His promise to donate 99% of his wealth to charity had provided perfect cover for stealing 100% of his customers' money. As the cryptocurrency industry continues to grapple with the aftermath of FTX's collapse, one fundamental question remains: how many more golden boys must fall before we learn that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence?
If you found value in this journey, a simple like means more than you think. It tells me these countless hours are worth it, and it fuels me to keep creating more of these deep dives for you. And if you want to be here for the next breakdown of business empires, scandals, and the turning points that shape industries, subscribe to Money Plot.